Hello friends, today I'm participating in the Thrift Flip Road Trip with the Crafting Cousins and Sammy from Unicorn Dust Designs. And I went thrifting when I was in Hawaii. I also have a garage sale item from Oklahoma. So I've been all over the map thrifting to bring to you today 3 beautiful thrift flips. Let's get crafting. Our first stop on this road trip is at Savers in Hawaii. It was a rainy day. You can see the rain coming down, but that didn't stop us from thrifting. This thrift store had all sorts of interesting finds. Much different than the things that I see at my thrift store at home. I found these little trays, little dishes, very interesting, but $4.99 a piece was a little much, and they were a little bit heavy for my suitcase. My suitcase was already too heavy, and I was going to have to put these things in my husband's suitcase. So I was having to be very particular about what I purchased today. A lot of very interesting things in this thrift store. I loved this pewter pineapple. I am a sucker for some pewter, but at $7.99, I wasn't quite sure what I could do with it. I didn't think I could paint it like a strawberry and pull that off. I love these wooden trays and wooden bowls that they have in Hawaii. You see them everywhere, all over the place, in people's decor and for sale, and I absolutely loved them, and I really wanted to purchase one, and I'm having a little bit of buyer's regret because the prices on these were actually pretty good. But I passed them up. I liked this little bamboo teak wood salt box. I think it's a salt box. I don't know. You let me know what you think that is. It reminds me of a salt box. Maybe it's a salt and pepper box. And then look at this. Okay, there's that cute little box. But look at this interesting box. I stood here and looked at this thing for quite some time. And I thought at $8.99 that was a pretty good buy. And then here is this little antique Asian little jewelry box. That was a good buy. And look at the detail in this little cutout jewelry box for $5.49. And then there were these bags of all kinds of bits and baubles hanging on the wall. It kind of reminded me of my craft cottage at home. And I didn't find anything over here that I could not live without, but there were some interesting things to look at, and I really enjoyed myself looking at these things. All kinds of things. I really just wanted to kind of show you what they had as compared to the things that we have at home. Oh, I think I see some seashells. Some of the seashells looked like seashells from Dollar Tree. And then you're going to see in just a little bit some seashells that look like someone had picked them up on the beach. I was really tempted to get those. And then I go to the office supplies, not thinking that I was going to actually see anything until I saw this. And for some reason, this little piece spoke to me. At $7.99, it was a little more than I probably would have paid at my thrift store at home, but I knew that I could do something with that and make it beautiful. These little blue dishes just caught my eye, little cups, little bowls, and I was looking to see where they were made and where they were from and what brand they were, but I couldn't read any of that. It was all in another language or what have you, but this is what I ended up with, and this is what we're going to flip today. I'm going to take some petticoat pink. I'm going to add just a little bit of layered chocolate. These are DIY paints to make a little bit of a rose color paint. I'm going to give this 2 coats of paint off camera because I don't want you to have to endure watching me do that. But this is what it looks like when I'm finished. I'm going to take the IOD Lattice Rose Paint Inlay. See how smart I am to do that so I can remember to tell you which one it is? So I'm looking to see, I love the way that this looks with that pink in the background. My friend Myra over at Farm Fresh Design 59. That didn't sound right. Farm Fresh Designs 59. She helped me decide what color should go behind this because she's used this inlay before. And so thank you, Myra, for helping me decide what color I should put behind the inlay. This turns out absolutely gorgeous. Now, I want to tell you that you do need to trim off that little piece around the edge. Otherwise, I had to cut it again because I cut it too short. I didn't take into account that I needed to trim off that extra little piece. Okay, I'm going to put these with the stripe on the side. I couldn't decide if I wanted to put them horizontal or vertically. So here I am. I'm just showing you how. Do I want to put it like that or do I want to put it like this? And ultimately I decided to put them vertically. And so I'm just pressing down around the edges to make some marks on there so I can see where to cut it out. I'm sizing it up to make sure they fit. And then to put the inlays on, we're just going to use a mister bottle to mist it with water and set it aside. And then I'm going to put a nice even coat of paint, fresh paint, on my piece where I'm going to put the inlay. And then I'm going to gently lay the inlay down. And it's damp and it's much easier to work with. And then I'm just going to make sure I don't have any wrinkles in it. That's very easy to work with. And then I'm just going to take a little soft cloth or paper towel and just dab it down, push it down into that paint a little bit. Try not to move it or smear it. And then I'm going to spritz it down with a little bit or a little bit more water. Oh, now I'm taking it off. Oh, it's the next day. It's the next day. I sprayed it down with some water and I let it sit for about 10 minutes because I had let it sit overnight. And then I just pulled it off and look how beautiful. That pink was a great choice. And now I'm going to show you that I'm pulling back. I had already wet that and let it sit. And I'm pulling this back on the sides. I did both ends of this piece with that. And I'm going to use my heat gun to dry it because that is like having wet paint on there. So it does need to dry thoroughly before you touch it or anything, or you will smear that paint. Now I'm going to take my little handy dandy finger sander that I ordered off Temu. It was much cheaper than trying to order it off Amazon. That's the only other place I've ever tried to look at one. But it was very cheap. It came with a lot of little pieces of sandpaper with it. And I'm just going to sand around the edges to bring back in a little bit of that black. Not a lot, but just a little bit. And then I'm going to wipe it off with one of those really soft cloths that you get in the car detailing department at Dollar Tree. Now, these are from the IOD Olive Crest mold. I poured those with some resin, and I'm going to use crinoline. It's not much different than the color of this resin, but I'm going to use this rough brush. It's not a smooth brush. You see my bristles falling out. And you can see the color's not that much different. And I'm just going to swirl it. I'm dabbing and swirling and dabbing and swirling because I want, to have a little bit of texture or whatever. I don't care that it's really smooth. And I want the paint to get all down in all the details. So I'm going to do all three pieces. I'm going to do the sides and the top and with that. Now, once it's dry, I'm going to go in with vintage linen and I'm going to just dab it all around and kind of wipe some of it back and just, because I decided I really didn't like it so yellow. But I did want some of that in there. Now, that little girl you see on there was a sticker. And I've used some of those in the past. I got them, I think, on Amazon. And they're just little tiny stickers. And they're all little Victorian looking girls. And I just cut her out. It was a little bit too big. And I just cut her out to fit. And then stuck it in the middle of that piece. And then I white waxed everything. And I'm going to use clear wax to seal our inlay and the paint on this. Now, I'm just smeared it on my hand to, because I got a little too much. And I'm going to do this entire thing, all the paint in the inlay. I made sure that this inlay was completely dry. It had dried for several hours. And then, now that everything's all waxed up, I'm going to use Type Bond, quick and thick glue. And then I'm going to put I'm going to use my paintbrush today and smooth it out on the edges so that it gets all the way out to the edges so that it holds good. And then I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue in the middle so it'll hold quick. Let me get it turned around the correct way, and we're going to put her down there right in the middle. I'm going to do the same thing with both of these little side pieces. I just think this is adorable. But then I decided that that back piece up there looked a little bit naked, and so I used some of that crochet lace ribbon that I love so much from Dollar Tree and some chiffon ribbon that I got off Shein, and I just made a simple little, it's just a simple little bow with just, cutting a little piece of the ribbon and pinching it in the middle. And I'm going to glue that right up there on the back. And then I had this extra little piece of resin poured from the rosettes. And no, is it the rosettes? I think it's the rosettes mold. It was just in my stash. And instead of a button or something like that, I decided I was going to just pop that right in the middle of there. And I love how this turned out. Let me get all the glue strings off and all the little strings off, and let me pet and pamper it just a little bit, and then we're done, and obviously I'm happy with it.
The Thrift Flip Road Trip. In today's video, we are participating in an open challenge hosted by Unicorn Dust Designs, Crafting Cousins, and special guest host DIY Craftaholic. Here, talented creators breathe new life into old items. But wait, there's more. We're thrilled to announce that this month's playlist will have a special giveaway with not one, not two, but 5 lucky winners. Prizes include DIY paint and recycled decoupage paper from Unicorn Dust Designs, 3 wood craft kits from Crafting Cousins, and a $100 Visa gift card from CJ DIY. To enter, just watch the May Thrift Flip Road Trip playlist and comment your favorite project from each creator on their video. Mark your calendar for May 25th when we will announce the winners on our community tabs. Open to U.S. residents only. Don't miss out on this chance to win, and be sure to spread the love by following the playlist link in the description box below.
Okay, this one came from Texas, and it was given to me in a box of hand-me-overs. And it was just stuff someone didn't want, and they gave it to me, and I've had it in my stash for a while. So I'm going to paint, it's a little metal piece that had come from Hobby Lobby. I'm going to paint it with faded burlap. I did 2 coats just across the front, and it had little hangers on the back, and it was kind of hard to paint because it wouldn't lay down flat. So I just put a couple of blocks of wood underneath it. And I'm going to take weathered wood, and I'm going to do very, very dry brush just around the edges, because I'm going to use a stamp, and I don't even know why I did the dry brush, but I just thought it would add something to it. Because I didn't really put the stamp all the way around I did it around the edges. You're going to see. I don't know. Like I always say, there's not a whole lot of rhyme or reason to why I do what I do. I just do it and go with it, and if it doesn't turn out the way I want it, then I do something else. But this is the barnwood plank. I think that's what it's called. See, I should have written it down on a piece of paper. Barnwood plank stamp by IOD. I get all my IOD products from Sammy at Unicorn Dust Design. She has a website, and it's linked in the description box below. You can go over there. You can get your IOD DIY products, Saltwash, and all kinds of thrift finds and flips. And you're absolutely going to love that website if you don't know about it. So I inked this up with some black ink from IOD, and then I'm just going to, you can just see what I'm doing. I'm just going to keep going until I get the entire piece covered with this. So see, I guess I did kind of need to do the edges, because it just kind of, I feel like I always say it outlines it, kind of gives it a finished edge. And then there's a little round one that I've never used before. This was my first time to use it, that kind of looks like a little knot hole. And then I didn't re-ink it, but I decided that I just wanted a little faint piece of it just right there. So yeah, kind of like how that turned out. Then I decided it was a little bit dark, so I took my little finger sander and sanded it down a little bit. Now I'm going to use Old School by DIY on this resin piece that I poured. It's an IOD mold. It has a cow, a pig, and a lamb on it. It has these little wheat pieces like you see on the left and some little florals. But I'm going to use the cow and the wheat pieces today. Sammy has this on her website. If you love this, then go over there and grab this mold. Grab you some air dry clay or some resin and get after it. So this is what I'm doing. I'm going to use the cake batter to do the wheat because I feel like it's a very good color to paint the wheat. And I'm just dabbing it on with a paintbrush that is old. If you do this with a paintbrush, it's going to ruin it if you pounce. So use a paintbrush that you've already done this with or that you're going to do it with again sometime. I use the same paintbrushes to do this pouncing method with, dabbing method with, stippling method with. Okay, so I've got them all painted. I'm going to kind of put them on this little plank of wood the way that I arrange them. Kind of, I'm just letting you see my thought process here. And, yep, I like that. So I'm going to take some wax. Okay, this is where it gets interesting. So I took the clear wax and I was going to clear wax it. Then I was going to white wax it because I didn't want so much white. And then as I started waxing it, I don't know if my paint wasn't completely dry or what, it started taking off some of the paint. And so I thought, well, I'll just go ahead and white wax it and see what happens. And I put the white wax on, I start wiping it back, and the paint starts wiping off. So I just kind of wet distressed it a little bit. It was kind of like wet distressing, but my rag wasn't wet. I think maybe my paint just wasn't dry enough. I didn't let it dry long enough. And so I liked the way it turned out. I love that. It was a happy accident. And so then I just took that brush, because it had wiped off some of that paint. It was a little bit dark on my brush. And so I just used that on the wheat, and it just turned out beautiful. I love how it turned out. So, all is not lost when something doesn't turn out the way you wanted it. Sometimes it's better. So we're going to just glue these pieces down. Glue the cow right in the center. We're going to glue the wheat down. I'm not going to show you every single piece. I'm just showing you that I put the glue all the way out to the edges so that will stick good, because we don't want that coming off. We worked too hard to make this look good. Okay, now I'm going to take some black and white check ribbon. I'm trying to decide, do I want the wider ribbon or do I want the more narrow ribbon? And I settled on the narrow ribbon, and it worked out great that the hooks on the back of this, the hangers on the back of these, worked great for me just to tie this ribbon on there. And then I go ahead and make some knots on the front to make it look like, it came from the front. I really wanted to, it was kind of an afterthought that I wish I would have, and I may go back and go ahead and do it on this, to put a verse on here. I love the verse. I used it in my last video that says, He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. That's in Psalms. I think I put it on the screen here shortly. There it goes. He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, Psalms 50, verse 10. And I think I'll put that across the top of this piece at some time. My uncle always says he owns the cattle on 1,000 hills and the potatoes under the hill. Okay, our next item came from Oklahoma. I was in Oklahoma at a garage sale, and I picked this huge piece up for $2. I should have measured this, but to tell you how big it is, but it is huge. And it's about that thick. You can see how thick it is. It was a little beat up in a few places. It has that hanger, that nice big thick jute hanger. It was a little bit beat up, but I didn't care because, we like that rustic look. I'm going to be using Vintage Linen and Apothecary by DIY on this piece today. I took my finger sander and I sanded down that black paint just a little bit because I thought maybe that I would get better coverage, but it covered it really good, but I went ahead and did that. Now I'm going to use this brush and I'm going to try to keep the paint out of those lines because I want those lines to stay that neutral color that they already are. I'm not going to show you all of this paint. I did one really nice thick coat, and then I did the Apothecary on the welcome. And I'm going to use Stone Gray ink, and I'm going to use this Mercantile Stamp by IOD. It's from the new spring collection, and I love the new masks that you can lay the masks down and see where you want to put your stamps. So I laid my stamps down where I wanted them, and then the back side is a little sticky, so I'm going to lay the clear paper down on there, that plastic sheet down on there, and then pick them up, flip it over, and put that gray ink on there, ink it up good. Make sure I don't have any on there that doesn't need to be on there. I'll take a little wet wipe and get that off, and then I'm going to line it up, hover it over, line it up, and then press it down. I'm going to hold it with one hand while I press all the details down. Hold it with the other, trying not to move it and slide it, because that would not be pretty. Okay, let's lift it off, and look how beautiful that is. I'm going to do the same thing with these two little pieces of wheat. There was a larger piece of wheat and a smaller piece of wheat, and I'm going to put one set on each side of the rooster, and I think this just turned out so cute. The color's subtle, but I think it just looks great. I'm going to take some of this greenery. It's a garland, and I got this from Temu. It was super cheap, and it's not super full. It's small, but it's perfect to cut apart and use for DIY projects. And I'm just going to staple it down to my project because I just knew it was going to take too much hot glue. It was going to take it too long to dry. It's going to melt the plastic. So I just stapled it all down there. Then I realized, yep, you got it. I forgot to seal my paint. So I'm putting some clear wax on here. And, you know, that's me. Embellish, then wax. No, don't do as I do. Do as I say. Wax it and then embellish. So I made this bow off camera, of course. And this is some ribbon that I got at Sam's Club. Don't forget to look seasonally for ribbon at Sam's Club. When they put that Christmas ribbon out, you better look and find you some beautiful ribbon. I get that black and white buffalo check ribbon there every year. Not every year because it lasts me forever, but every year I add to my stash. So this is how this one turned out. It was super easy, super simple, and I think it just turned out great. That's it for the Thrift Flip road trip this month. I hope that you enjoyed the thrift flips and how they turned out, and I hope that I inspired you to find some junk and make it beautiful home decor. Don't forget to check out the playlist and see what everybody else did with their thrift flips and where they got their items to make over. But most of all, I want you to remember to be still and know that He is God.